This is the Female Founder Show with host and entrepreneur Bridget Fitzpatrick, exclusively on ASBN.
Welcome everyone to the Female Founder Show. Today's guest is a trailblazer who is making a difference in the field that has historically been dominated by men. As we all know, women have been underrepresented in STEM careers, which stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. But our guest, Stephanie Espy, is changing that narrative. She has founded a coaching business that empowers young people to excel in academics and gain entrance into college and graduate school programs. Stephanie is also the author of STEM Gems, How 44 Women Shine in Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics, and how you can too. Her work is truly inspiring, and we are so happy to have her on the show today. Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us.
I'm so excited. Thanks for having me today.
I would love to start with your journey and what the inspiration was behind starting MathSP.
Really, it was because I was not seeing enough girls and women in my STEM classes growing up, both in high school and college. But really, it was when I got into the workplace, and I was the only female engineer in a lot of my different work environments. I started asking myself, like, why are there so few in the different rooms I was in, the labs I was in, and that was something that was creeping inside of me, starting in college in my different classes. And so, but it blew my mind when I actually got my first internship and, was the only female engineer, and I was just an intern.
Yeah.
So I was like, where's everyone else? And that stayed with me for years. I had never thought about starting a business. At that time, it was definitely not something I was thinking about. But as time went on and as I got more and more experience and more just thoughts around just questions around why, then I would ask myself, well, what can I do about it? Like, how can I bring more women into the career that I chose and that I love so much? And so that is essentially, a very brief response as to how I ended up starting MathSP. It was really, I remember having conversations with my family, and both my parents are engineers. So my dad in particular, he always has emphasized math and how important math is. Math is the backbone of really all STEM careers. And so he said, if you can get more girls interested in math, then perhaps they'll be interested in engineering and other STEM areas. And so I started with okay, I'm going to make everyone love math.
I love it.
Or I'm going to help them understand math better or make it more simple and help them have a connection to the real world, something they care about. If I can do that, maybe I can convince them that, see the world in which a way I see the world, and inspire some girls to go into STEM.
Yes.
And so that's really how MathSP started. But I also grew up watching my mother, who's an engineer, tutor math on the weekends to a lot of kids in the neighborhood. So, she just has a passion for math. She actually has a degree in math and engineering. And so watching her do that growing up, it was just that was a part of me.
Yes.
Even when I was in college, I always tutored, always helped kids in math and science. And so then I was like, if I could do more of this more intentionally, then I can, be more focused about helping to bring more girls into engineering and STEM.
That's great. Now, it was probably really all you knew, and you probably, when you did, like you said, when you got into your internship, you were probably shocked because you were from a household that was women engineers.
Exactly. And my aunt, I have aunts who are in engineering. I have cousins, my sister, so a lot of us are. And in my high school, the girls, we ran the world. We were the ones in the classroom that thrived and shined in math. So, it was definitely college and more specifically internships while I was in college that really, opened up my mind to the big gender gap in STEM, and just feeling like I feel like the only one. I've never felt that only experience until until that first internship, and it was just every opportunity I've ever had from that point was almost the same in that sense of where's everyone?
Right.
Why aren't there more? There were women around me, but they were in administration, they were in HR, they were in other parts of the business, but they were not in my role. They were not in my immediate, workspace.
Yeah.
So I just, wanted just always wondered why. And then fast forward years later, I was like, okay, I think part of the problem is just it starts early, early exposure, and it starts with having a solid foundation in math and science subjects.
Right.
And so if I can, do something at the early phase, then maybe I can, help close this gender gap.
Yeah, and you are. It's great work.
Thank you.
Now, you worked for some very large companies, BP being one of them. What was the transition like going from working in such a huge corporate world to starting your own business?
It was, it was big. Like you said, I've worked for a couple large companies, and, I always saw myself in a smaller company, even if it was like a startup type of company, just because I always felt like I had, so much. I was just so ambitious. I was ready to make big changes. But I've always been that person that stepped up and ran for class president, and just wanted to impact others in the biggest way I could. And so when I first started my business, it was scary.
Sure.
But it was also exciting because I felt like I had a lot more room to make a bigger impact than I did in a larger company where you're, it's so big that you're just one of many people that are trying to get to a certain level. So here I'm starting out, at the top in terms of starting something brand new, and I have the ability to make a lot of impact if I set it up correctly and make the introductions and the relationships that I need. So it was scary, but it was also very exciting because I knew that it was sort of a training, having gone through all the leadership roles I had up until that point. All of that training allowed me to feel very confident in starting a business and giving it a try. And I always felt like if it doesn't work out, then just
you have something to fall back on.
All right, I can get a job. I can go back to corporate America. I'll just go back. But if I don't try, then I'm going to wonder. And I don't want that, what if, or, if I would have just tried something new or different, what would have happened? So it was something that wouldn't leave me. So I knew I had to just give it a shot. And even if I tried, it didn't work out, or I was like, this is not for me, then I knew, there were other options out there.
Now, you have degrees from MIT, University of California, Berkeley, and Emory, and you fully prepared to start your own business as you thought, but then you still said that you were scared. Do you mind if I ask do you remember what you were scared about?
Yeah, because I left a very high-paying job to start a business.
Plain and simple.
People always
what am I doing?
Yes, I walked away from something that was very lucrative, where stable, steady income, regular income to start a business. So that's scary. Right now, the good part was that I felt like, what's the worst that can happen? I only at this point I have to take care of myself. It wasn't no kids at the time, so it was like worst case scenario of I'll go back and live with my parents. I'll make it work, or I'll get a job. But at this point, it's just me I'm taking care of. So I can take care of myself, and I can, work within the limits and boundaries that I have. So it was scary, but at the same time, I knew I was able to cut out things if I need to cut them out, and manage my lifestyle until it got to the point where, I'm doing okay. So for a while I was working full time, and I was working on my business. So it wasn't just like a clean, business without having that, that comfort. So I was balancing the two. And I had a lot of flexibility on my full-time job. And so it allowed me space to, just build. And I was maximizing every minute of the day. I was just fitting in. I was young and just, I was motivated and inspired and excited. So I was just, double time. And so that's what I did for 3 years. And then at the point where I felt, ready, and my income from business was in a place where I felt like, okay, yes, I can pay my bills. It's on, it's up from this point. And also my job was moving me to a different city.
Okay.
And so I knew that I wasn't going to make that move. I was going to stay and again, work on the business. So that was a time that said, okay, the time is now,
Nice.
you know?
Yeah.
And, but yeah, it was initially really scary because the comfort, you know, of having,
Right.
you know, knowing that you're going to, you know, make those payments every month and what have you,
Right.
is what makes it a little bit scary in the beginning. But
for sure.
I think that's why you have people that go in business with other people, you know, co-founders, or you have, you know, you apply for grants or funding, just so that you know that you have a little while, a little time, you know, before you have to really fully make it work. Yeah. So I knew if I fell, I would be fine at that point in time.
And you knew that if you had to make sacrifices, that you were ready to do that. I think that's huge when you're starting a business, that there are, no matter what, there are going to be some circumstances where you're going to have to sacrifice a little bit, whether it be your time or your money or...
Absolutely. I was sacrificing a lot. You know, like I said, I was working around the clock and I was fine with that. I wasn't traveling as much for fun and I was fine with that. Yeah. I wasn't shopping. I wasn't doing a lot of things that, you know, you do when you're kind of like just in a steady state. I was trying something. I was building something. So all of my energy and effort and resources went into the building. Yeah. And that meant not hanging out as much or just splurging on different things. So, you know, and that was fine because I was so focused and so passionate about starting this business that nothing else seemed important at the time.
Absolutely. Now, you're the author of this inspiring book, STEM Gems: How 44 Women Shine in Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics, and How You Can Too. Can you share some highlights from the book and what you want your readers to take away?
Yeah, so I wrote that book because I felt that women in STEM are not visible enough, especially in mainstream. When you turn on the television, when you watch a movie, you know, it's not prominent as enough. And these are careers and women in careers that are just lesser known careers. They're behind the scenes, you know, and so behind the camera, so they go hidden a lot. And so I want to shine the light. I want to bring to the forefront some amazing careers and some amazing women in these careers that are just doing phenomenal work, but again, are just not as recognized as they should be. Right. So, so I think when you read this book, you're going to be open to a world of opportunities that you may not have ever known existed. You know, because you can't be what you can't see. Right. I think I really firmly believe that, you know, until something is introduced or exposed to you, then you don't know what you don't know. Right. You don't know what you don't know. Exactly. And so for a lot of people, when they read this book, this is their first time learning about a lot of these careers. And so not only are they learning about different careers in STEM, they're also meeting different women in these different careers. So they have an opportunity to walk away with a new set of role models that they didn't know existed prior to reading this book. So it was important to highlight a wide range of careers, 44 of them. I wish I could have highlighted more, but I didn't want the book to be too big. Right. You got a lot in 44. I could have kept going, right? But I was like, you know what? This is enough for now. Book one. But yeah, I wanted to highlight a range in every STEM area. So within science, you know, people think about scientists, but they don't think about the different types of scientists, and different things you can do under that science umbrella. The same thing with technology and engineering, math. There's so many different careers that fall into those buckets and that overlap several of those areas that, you know, again, they're not as heard of as, you know, widely known. Right. So I want to shine the light. I wanted to just expose these careers early to parents, to educators, to students, so they can think about them and they can decide, is this for me? You know, you don't want to, you know, the worst thing is that you go into your adult life and you're like, man, I never heard about that. I didn't know it existed. Right. I would have been totally interested in that career had I known.
Didn't know about several of the jobs in here, you know, things that are really cool, like the woman that worked for Disney and did the shading technology on the on the
so that's the
graphics.
Thing. We watch all of these movies, but we don't always think about how they're created, how they're made, the technology that's used to make these animations come to life. Right. And so there's people, you know, behind the scenes that are making your favorite movies. and that's technology. So yeah, and for me, having loved math all of my life, I'd never heard of an actuary ever until probably I was an adult.
Yeah.
And that's a career that I would have considered had I known it existed,
Right.
you know? So I think that shining the light on these careers, at least now they're mainstream, people know they exist, and then you can make an informed decision about, you know, where you want your life to go, your career to go with, you know, with more information.
Yeah. So do you think they're not highlighting these careers enough in high school or even earlier? Where should it start?
It really starts early. You know, I promote this book to elementary, middle, high. You know, I think as long as you can read, then it's never too early to be exposed to different opportunities. So, you know, even 4th, 5th grade reading level can pick up this book and read it, and voila, you know, now you're thinking about different careers in STEM. In the elementary school, they're certainly doing hands-on STEM activities. You know, they're learning about science, and they're doing different things in the classroom. So connecting those things to a career,
right.
you know,
why are we doing this is what a lot of kids are probably thinking. Why do I need to dissect a frog?
Exactly.
Why do I,
Exactly. So it's making it very linear. It's like, okay, here's an activity and we can do a fun experiment. We can build something, but how do you apply this to real life? So, you know, to something you care about. What career can I go into if I really love this activity? So I think that's the part that, you know, is easily, can easily be done because there's people in the room who are doing these things, you know? And so it's just connecting, you know, activity to career and career to a real person, a woman who is, you know, in working in that area and making a difference in the world. And so I think that's started as early as, you know, definitely elementary school, but specifically, you know, I think middle school is my sweet spot because girls tend to shy away from math as it gets more challenging in middle school. And so, you know, we have to keep them. We have to keep them engaged. We have to help them understand how, again, what they're doing in the classroom applies to real life. And so that's the age group where, you know, you start taking more tests, you go through puberty, there's all these other challenges that are coming into play. And so you really have to be more intentional about keeping their interest in STEM and making sure they have the right role models, mentors. All of that is critically important in middle school and beyond. So
definitely. Definitely. So now for those women watching that might be thinking about starting a business, what advice would you have for them?
At least for me, I felt more like I can go for this because I was at an age where if I fall, there's other things. I think when you are in your 30s and 40s and 50s and, you know, starting a business is a little bit more scary because you probably have a family or you have, you know, bills and all these things. So I think finding community, there's community out there of women who are just like you, you know, just like them, who are just now thinking about switching careers or starting a business, and having that community around you just makes it way more reasonable, doable, manageable because you have people alone who you're doing it alongside. I think when you're doing it in a silo, people are like, you're crazy. What are you thinking? You're too this, you're too that, you're too old, you're too whatever, you know, but there's examples of women who have, you know, single moms, you know, with many kids just starting businesses. I mean, there's so many examples. I think following people like that on social media, having that community around you of other women that are also now starting a business, that makes all the difference. I think for me, when I started, again, I was young, but I also had a community. I was just finishing my MBA at Emory. And so I had that community of like-minded entrepreneurial people around me that, you know, no boundaries. You're just like, I'm going for this. And I had people around me like, yeah, of course you're going for this.
Yes.
No questions. You know, you're doing this. And so that made a huge difference.
Definitely.
So you have to have support. You really do. And if it's not in your family or your close friends, find it. Find it. And I think that will empower you to take that leap. And go for it. And then if you have to do what I did and keep that full-time job, that income going while you're starting a business, there's nothing wrong with that either. You know, if you're able to manage both, then, you know, maybe that's the way to go. So you're not just completely, you know, leaving a full-time job behind and a steady paycheck to just try your luck. I mean, you may decide, let me try this while I'm still in my full-time job.
Yeah.
Or give yourself a couple years before you go full-time.
Yeah.
So there's ways to do it. So I just encourage women to go for it. Because again, for me, the worst thing I could have done is say, I wish I would have done this when I had the chance, living life with that regret. If that's something that you cannot live with, then you kind of have to do it. Like, it's just going to eat at you.
Yeah.
You have to give it a shot.
And it's easy to listen to the people that might say, what are you, crazy? What are you thinking about? Why are you going to leave this great job and go do, or you've never done anything like that. You can't do that, or you don't have the right skills or whatever. It's so easy to listen to that and believe it. So what you said about the support group is so important. I think great advice, because you do need the encouragement and the inspiration to be around like-minded people and the people that want to cheer you on every day. For sure.
And just find that one role model, that's someone who's done it, who's in your same boat, whether it be multiple kids, single mom, older, in career, whatever it is. Find someone who's done it, and then let that person be your motivation. There's a podcast I love called How I Built This.
Oh, I listen to it all the time.
It's amazing. And that podcast, you just hear so many stories, and you find different nuggets that just
you do
sit with you.
Right.
And it gives you that extra thing you need to okay, I'm going for it.
Also gives you ideas. I listen with my husband all the time, and we'll finish listening and we'll say, oh my gosh, what a great idea. We could do that in our business and do it this way, or maybe a little bit different, but in such inspiring stories and encouraging.
Absolutely. And so I think that is how you get inspiration to actually take that leap. By finding people who've done it and having them to motivate you to take the leap and do it as well.
And some of the stories that you hear, you can't believe some of the things that they've overcome.
Absolutely.
You think, oh wow, I thought I had it bad. These people, didn't know.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think after you hear those stories, you see that they've been able to be successful. Then then you tell yourself, if they can do it, why can't I?
Exactly.
At least try.
Right. Exactly. So let's go back to Math SP for a second. Can you share a success story, maybe from one of the young women that you've coached?
Yeah, so Math SP is building foundation in math and science subjects. And so, I started Math SP in 2009. So it's been over a decade of just success stories, which is awesome, right? It's helping students, it's helping the light bulbs to go off. It's helping them to make connections. I've had students who were with me in middle school and high school, have now coming back, thinking about going to business school. And so now they need support with their GMAT, math and other things, or just sharing, things that they've done. So I had one young lady who I probably worked with early on in Math SP, so maybe 2 or 3 years in, who recently sent me a message on LinkedIn and told me that she's now a computer scientist. And man, I tell you, I screenshotted that message and I just look at it from time to time. It's just, sometimes you don't even know how you impact people. You don't know it right away. It doesn't come the next day, the next week. That came years later. And I was like, you have just made my day. I told her that. You just made my day. Wow.
That's why you're doing it.
Yeah. I appreciate her reaching out, letting me know, because again, it's not instant gratification all the time. And so you just take it when it comes. But that in particular just resonated with me because it was out the blue, unexpected, and it just really warmed my heart. So when I can not only help them with, their schoolwork and just have better grades, better understanding, starting a foundation, but then they also go on to study a STEM subject, and then they go on to a STEM career. That's just, again, that made my day. I was like, I'm done for the day. I can take the day off. And, I felt so good. So that's just one person. So I don't always know the long-term impact. I know more shorter, but the longer-term impact is that, she's thriving in a career right now in computer science, an area where women are definitely underrepresented, especially women of color. And so to have, been a part of her trajectory, it's just beautiful.
That's great. There's probably so many more like her. They just don't always think to send a message. So it's really great.
There's some definitely that I have kept in touch with throughout the years, and I definitely know their story. There's some people I've just come in contact with in just sporadically in different ways, where I've sat on a panel somewhere, or spoke at an event somewhere, and then have become in contact with people, and I've helped them in different ways. So there's different there's different stories, different things, but and then people who read the book have gone through the program, because I do have programs in different schools that are around the country, as well as summer camps and summits that I do. So there's a lot of different ways that I'm able to touch girls, and I've gotten so many emails and feedback and messages from parents, girls, just letting me know that how much they appreciate it, and have been inspired by it. So it just makes me feel really good.
Yeah, that's great. Now, how do you maintain, you're a very positive person. I love that. It's contagious. How do you maintain the positivity, even on the challenging days? Do you have any kind of routines or anything that you do to kind of stay in the right headspace?
Oh, meditation.
Good.
Yes. Yeah. I try to start it in my day with meditation.
Nice.
So, especially on a challenging day, if I have to walk away from my computer and just do a 15-minute meditation. And I'm not very good at meditating either, by the way. Like I'm one of those people that my mind is still going a million miles an hour while I'm meditating.
Oh, me too.
I want to say that very loosely, but I meditate, but I try to meditate.
Yeah, right.
But somehow just listening to the voice and just trying to meditate does help to refocus and to calm down and to okay, let me go back at it. So I'm good for stopping in the middle of an email or whatever after a call and saying, okay, I need 10 minutes to do a peace meditation or a kindness meditation or a courage meditation. There's so many different types. And so that really helps. I exercise, at least 4 days a week. And I think that also helps. It's one of those things that if I feel good, then I'm able to come across and do better with work. Right. Even those things I have to do that I don't necessarily want to do or like to do, or have those difficult conversations, I can do that better after an exercise or, cycling. I like to cycle or meditating. So that helps. And then just, celebrating little things. I try to, I got a grant, I'm going to celebrate. Or, I got like that day when I got that message from her. Like, this is great. Celebrating the little things. That helps too, because that, those things are what's there to remind you that you're on the right path. Yeah. And so when you have those detours, or when you have those moments where it's like, oh, it's too much. I wish I had this. I wish I had that. I wish. I'm tired. I'm, all those little things are there to remind you you're on the right path. Right. Keep going. Yeah.
I'm so glad that you brought up the self-wellness, because so many of us females, mothers, your mother, you've got a book, a business, all of these things going on, that so often we forget about taking care of ourselves. And that's so important.
It's so important. And I think, honestly, at a certain point, it's more critical. I think back in my 20s, 30s, I wouldn't even think about it. I would just keep going. Yeah. Now I'm definitely more intentional about like taking a break. Yeah. Working out, going out for dinner, meeting a friend for a drink. Like, those things are crucial. Right. So it's almost important to getting the work done. In my
agree.
Mind. So having the balance is really, really important.
Right. Now, where do you see yourself and Math SP in the next 5 to 10 years?
It's a really good question. And I've thought about this, and it changes a lot. I'm in a point now, so I have a Math SP, which is a for-profit, and I also have STEM Gems, which is a nonprofit. So I've sort of two businesses, two things. I'm kind of spending my time between the two. Math SP has kind of been on a cruise control for a while, and so I'm ready to re-energize and take it to another level. So that means expansion. With COVID has come a few opportunities, because before COVID, we were doing mostly in-person workshops and sessions with students and meetings with parents. Everything was in person.
Yeah.
And so with COVID, of course, everything went virtual. So now I'm in a whole new virtual space, which now is a hybrid. It's both in person and virtual. So that's actually been really nice at expanding and reaching students and families exactly outside of the Atlanta area. So I'm looking to take that even further and expand to other regions and reach more students. And so I've always had this growth model, and I've put it on pause because I was starting to put a lot more time and energy into the nonprofit STEM gyms and build the programs around STEM gyms, finish the book.
Because it takes a lot to start a new,
so just kind of cruise control with Math Espy, and then really building with STEM gyms. And so now it's still finding the right balance between the two. But Math Espy has a lot of opportunity to reach students, really everywhere, because of, we can be virtual. We can work with a student in the middle of, Georgia, who not anywhere close. We can, we can hire coaches all over and match them with students who don't live within 20 miles of them. Like before, we were only working with students within a certain mile radius, so that was very limiting.
Yeah, for sure.
Now we don't have those limits per se. So there's a lot of things, a lot of growth opportunities that I really want to focus on. And really just, again, the mission is still the same. The mission is still to help students have a better foundation in math and science and connect it to the real world. All of our coaches are STEM degrees or STEM professionals or students or professionals. So we're all very passionate about STEM. So you're working with someone who is not just going to help you, ace your next test, but it's going to help you see how important what you're doing is in the real world and how you can have a career doing just like we do. And so I think that's really the beauty of working with one of our coaches. So you're going to get someone who's super passionate about STEM and then also helping you make those connections. And so again, there's so much opportunity to do that. There's only so many people we've actually touched at the
sky's the limit.
Sky's the limit. There's a lot more people that we haven't reached. And so we're working with more schools now, reaching more families, more partnerships, more corporate partnerships as well. Well,
I would love to have you back before 5 years, hopefully, and we can recap and see where you are and see how things are going, and we can talk more about this. But thank you so much for coming on the show with me today. It's been great.
It's been my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
This is the Female Founder Show with host and entrepreneur Bridget Fitzpatrick, exclusively on ASBN. If you're a female founder and would like to help other female founders with your inspiring story, we would love to hear from you.